Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm coming with another issue. This is a general issue, but of course, I do direct it especially to the black community, as that is my community. And I've accepted my responsibility as well as my accountability that when I'm pondering things and it comes to my mind, most of the times it's for me personally. I believe it should be shared with your peers. This is addressing pain. Um, we have many situations where we as a people we experience pain, albeit emotional pain, physical pain, things of that sort. We have it. One issue that I've noticed is that we don't address it properly. We don't deal with the pain. We tell people to just get over it. From my experience, I believe we are in one of the most insensitive societies ever, where people come and they say, hey, I have a pain, and they're told to just get over it. They're told, hey, that's just how things go. You just got to get over it. Um, I think that's the most improper response to someone that says they're in pain. If your child, just to put it into perspective, if your child comes to you and says, Mommy, my thumb hurts, do you tell your child to just get over it? If your husband or your wife comes to you, or a loved one in general, mother, parent, sibling, come to you and say, hey, I have a pain in my stomach and it's been there for the past 3 months. Are you just going to tell them, hey, you've been dealing with it this long, you might as well just keep trying to deal with it? No, because you care about that person and you're concerned because it may be something serious with them. I in the black community especially, we have a lot of people who deal with pain, but I'm going to address the black community. We know one of the biggest issues we have in our communities is not just absentee fathers or absentee mothers, but also parents in the household not truthfully working with their children emotionally. Emotions are very serious. Emotions can be a bit more complex than we make them out to be. First thing I want to address is it's very important if you have a child um, to create a comfortable nest for them so that they can retreat to this spot, which is around you, the parents. They can retreat to this spot when they deal with different issues in life. Um, when your child has to deal with their first heartbreak, when your child has to deal with how ugly our society is as far as accepting them, because our society has various standards that say if you look this way, or if you think this way, or if you emotionally feel this way, or if you're not this smart, there's a bar set where you are either beneath lower average, average, or above average. When of course it shouldn't be like that, because a lot of the standards we have that are set are the most just ignorant standards in the world. But create that nest egg for your child so they can retreat there. And in that nest, you can educate them on how to deal with various issues, how to repair the damage that has been done to their psyche, the damage that's been done to their hearts, because their hearts have been broken. I bring this up because, especially with the absence of parents, daughters and sons that are raised without fathers have a pain that is deep in them. And that pain, it's fresh as a child from that first feeling of pain, of guilt, albeit if their father isn't around and their father's never been around and they see their classmate's father picking them up. Immediately they wonder, why can't I have that? They see the joy on their classmate's face when they pick them up. Or the pain from the fathers making them promises that they can't keep. It's not just fathers too, it's mothers as well. But one thing we do recognize, due to various situations, because I'm not casting blame just in our society as far as the things that happen in our society, we have to understand the that racism is a form of a political system. We have to understand that racism goes hand in hand with capitalism. It's just a capitalistic nature that's not just built on your economic status, educational level, etc., but also on this created word race. But that's a whole nother video. But I wanted to address that a lot of us have pains dealing with, I'll just deal with the parental issues. Even if our parents are in the household, you have people who lived with their parents, but they never established a real relationship with their parents for whatever reason, because a lot of our parents were young when they had us, and they had their own issues and didn't know how to get over their own issues, and you notice how the domino effect keeps happening. This video is first to address those people that are in those situations, to just give some information that came to me. Even with me, I have my own personal issues, and I'll go into how I was able to identify where they came from, but also to tell people, because we have a lot of people that have these painful issues and they have children, and one of your biggest things should be to stop that domino effect right there with you and start it different with your children. But first, dealing with the issue, I would say you need to identify when there's a discrepancy in your character. And when I say a discrepancy in your character, when you notice that there are some unnatural things that you do. It's hard for you to love. You're always angry. You're very argumentative. I'm not talking about those who like to debate, but those who like to just create negativity out of situations that aren't necessarily negative. You hurt. You see certain things. I'll disclose one of my personal hurts. Well, I'm not going to say that. You don't need to know all that. But there are programs that I watch, and different feelings come over me, and you'll notice it. You'll notice it, especially in your if you're in the 30s or late 20s or mid 20s. You start noticing that these emotions are so strong. You start weeping, not boo-hoo crying all the time, but sometimes tears are welling in the bottoms of your eyes, and you're like, what in the world is wrong with me? You know. But when you start, first you have to identify that these things are happening, because a lot of times in our society we're taught to ignore these things and just deal with it. Just go with it. Just go with it. That's how we deal with things. We just go with it. And what we end up doing is we steady suppress. But the stuff is still building up. We just keep pushing it down. And you ever seen a garbage can where you keep trying to just push it down till it can't push down no more? You try to click that top on there, it just pops off. That's what happens. And a lot of times our pop off is rooted in suicides. Our pop off is rooted in our health, our physical health. We still do not naturally make that connection between our physical health and our emotional health and our mental health. We still don't make those connections, and that's very important to understand. But anyway, when you start recognizing that these things are in your character, it's a painful process, but it's important to start following that pain down towards the root, because you can't fix these problems until you identify what the root of the problem is. It's a painful journey to do that, because a lot of times, especially in your adulthood, you have suppressed memories, you have suppressed different feelings that you had as a child. You've suppressed them as you got older. So when you dig, you reopen some wounds. It's almost like if a person had a gunshot wound and they don't treat it properly. The wound starts to heal itself, but when they get to the doctor after a while, I don't know why I said gunshot, but any wound, the wound starts to heal itself. But if it heals improperly, the doctor has to open up that wound, and there's pain there, especially if it's a wound where the doctor has to clean out flesh that's rotted away and things of that sort. And a lot of us have these issues that we've carried for decades, or a decade, or 5 years or more, and that stuff it's starting to heal, but it's healing in the wrong way. And so what happens is, when you start digging to the root of the problem, you have to start reopening some things, and it's painful. It's a painful journey. I admonish everybody to find someone that they trust to deal with these issues, to speak with them, to talk about some of these issues. I'm not telling you to run to church, because I'm not telling you to run to counseling all the time. Sometimes you just need to find a good ear. It's up to you. You have to use your common sense, and that respect has to be earned. So if you know it's somebody you could trust, find them. That's a part of your work. That's a part of your work you have to do. But when you start digging down to the root of these issues, you first have to identify the root of the issue. Part of identifying the root of the issue is being correct with yourself and understand, and just being honest with yourself, because we are not honest with ourselves as a people. We blame our situations on this, but it's really this. And we have to be honest with ourselves and identify the issues. Men, there is no problem with saying that you have issues because your father wasn't there. To tell a man that that if he still has issues with his father not being there, he's a chump or he's a punk or his masculinity is affected, you're an idiot to say that. You're an idiot to say that. So if you're saying that, yeah, you're an idiot. I don't care if you're a hardcore thug telling people, if you're so-called educated, because half of y'all with degrees, you just got degrees because you know how to retain a certain amount of information for a certain length of period of time. But none of you even have libraries at your own house and don't pick up a book outside of the textbooks that you used in school. That's another subject. But to tell a man that it's ignorant. And men, if you've been told that, ignore that. That person isn't your friend. That person is not for you if they've told you that. But first, you identify the root of that problem. You be real with yourself and say this is the root of that problem. And then you start trying to find ways to deal with the problem. One way that worked for me, it's almost like with anything, you don't immediately just start doing something. So when those feelings come, you have to let that ride for a little bit. What you do is, what we tend to do is we reside in those feelings. You let the feeling ride and then you stop it at a certain point. Right when it gets to that point where you're feeling comfortable in it, because we've become comfortable in our feelings. And when we become comfortable in our feelings, it impedes our progress to being a better person overall. It also encourages us to do different things that negatively affect our health, such as eating improper foods. I know I was a big time ignorant comfort eater. I didn't recognize that I ate sweets and I love sweets and I ate sweets to make me feel good or to try to sustain a good feeling that I had. And that allotted to some health issues that I saw. Not major ones. I don't have any major health issues. A lot of us turn to the bottle. We like drinking. I don't know how many times I've heard people, and I used to say it in jest, but I realize how serious it is. I've heard people say, man, I need a drink today. No, you don't. And you know, I'm not trying to come at you if you drink, but if you're honest with yourself, you don't drink to your limit. Some of you are excessive drinkers, where you drink to get drunk. Some of you do that. And I'm not judging. I'm not doing that. I'm just trying to tell you how you do this. And some people, I don't do it all the time, but some people are habitual with this and it affects their health. Smokers, it affects your health. People who turn to sex. All of y'all have that little cell phone black book where when you feeling those feelings of emptiness and you need some companionship and you're not even honest with yourself. I just need to get some. You know, that's what you're saying. I'm going to keep it 100 today, but you say, I just want to get some. And you turn to that. That's not good for your health for obvious reasons, and it's not good for your mental health as well. I would get into spirituality, but a lot of y'all ain't even that spiritual, but it's not good for your spiritual health as well. That's a whole nother video too, as far as sex, how it relates to your physical, mental, and spiritual. But what you have to do is you let that feeling ride. You go somewhere. If you have to cry, go somewhere and cry. Do not hold back your tears. It is a reason why God created us, or whoever you believe created us with these release mechanisms, because it's releasing pressure from the inside. If you keep suppressing that, it's going to build up to a point where you can't hold it back anymore. And it's going to blow in a way that you don't necessarily want it to blow. But first you let it ride. What I've noticed with myself is with feelings of heartbreak, I've had 3 times where I've loved women and they've broken my heart. Feelings of any issues that I had as a child, those feelings come and I let it go. I let it ride. And then I say, okay, that's it. That's it. And what it is you gradually do this. It's just like with lifting weights or anything. You get stronger and stronger. The feelings don't go away necessarily. It's you learn how to deal with the feelings and how to capitalize off the feelings. Also, if you feel these feelings coming, when you get to the end of letting it ride, you find a productive way to let off that steam. Weightlifting, playing video games. People don't understand how it's still up for discussion with some folk, but I know with me, video games help. It takes my mind off of it. I feel better. Sometimes just reading a book, sometimes talking to somebody, sometimes going for a walk, going for a run. There are different positive ways to release some of this negative energy. But the first 2 things you definitely need to do is the first, identify the problem, and then accept your responsibility to deal with that problem. 1, for yourself. 2, for any future people that you have looking at you as a guideline on how to live their life. You don't want to pass this on to your children. They don't deserve it. Second, if you have children, it's so important to create a comfortable and positive home for that child. I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult. Parenting in general, I understand. Even though I'm not a parent, I'm not so idiotic and so naive to believe, to not know that it is a difficult job. And I've said it's one of the most difficult jobs ever, because with this job, you're not dealing with paperwork. You're not dealing with any concepts. You're dealing with an actual person, human being with feelings and things of that sort. I understand, but it is still your job. So you must find ways to be good at your job, and not be good as far as the perfect parent, but to say that you've done all that you could. And that means increasing your knowledge on what to do. But create this comfortable, positive homestead so that when your child comes home, they feel safe. Because this outside world is rough, especially for us black people. This outside world is very rough for us. And we need a place to retreat to, a sanctuary. While you're in the sanctuary, don't provide it as a crutch for your child to not be able to deal with these issues, but provide it as a way to educate them. Teach them everybody's not going to love you. Everybody you love is not going to love you, and everybody that loves you, you're not going to love as far as relationships. Teach them everybody's not going to like you. Society has standards, but what they say does not define who you are. Because a lot of times what happens, they don't have this comfortable area. Sometimes they experience these same societal standards, because some of you look at your children weird because they don't meet the societal standards that you've adopted. They're not cute enough. Your boys aren't tall enough. Your girl's a heavy set. Her hair is not long enough. I don't like the way his hair growing in. I don't like the characteristics he shows because he looks so much like his father and I can't stand his father. Or she looks so much like her mother, or he looks like... It's so many different reasons that we have these feelings, and so many different people that act on these feelings without even knowing that you're acting. I know you guys love your kids for the most part, but sometimes you don't even know you're acting on it. I tell a lot of people, when you get really upset, one thing my mother used to always tell me, and I'm glad she did, was, I'm so mad at you right now, you need to just get out my face before I say or do something I'm going to regret. Most times when you get mad, when you want to say what you want to say to your kids, you should retreat to the bathroom, go outside in the backyard, say what you want to say out there. Do not say it to your children, because you'll regret saying it and you'll apologize, but the damage has been done already. The damage has been done. You so stupid. You so dumb. You act like a whore. You know, you say these things to these children, and that stuff it's a seed that you plant. And even after you say you're sorry, that seed is still there. And that seed can be watered to you, because you might lose your temper later on. It could be watered and fertilized by you, or it could be watered and fertilized by people in this ignorant world we live in. So create a comfortable homestead for these children. Educate these children. Expand your education. If you have emotional problems, seek help. Seek groups where you could talk this thing out. Create your own groups. When you meet one other person that are dealing with issues, you guys can help each other. You know, dealing with these issues. You don't have to go through anything by yourself. You don't have to go through anything by yourself. But you have to have enough courage to say, hey, I have an issue. There is nothing wrong with having a vulnerability. It is a problem when you're not honest with yourself about your vulnerability, and when don't try to find out if you can actually fix this problem inside of you. So as usual, I just wanted to offer these words. I don't want to talk for too long. But I wanted to offer these words of encouragement to somebody. If it was questions, anything you think I didn't address, you can tell me in a video or anything. I'm praying for everybody. Like I say, this is in general, because it's a lot of people in the world, no matter what your ethnicity is, no matter what your economic status or educational level is, you have these issues. And I do address the general population, but I do a fine tune to the black community, because a lot of different people of other ethnicities, they do have resources. They do have people to turn to. That's something I realized working in higher education, that a lot of the parents of different ethnicities, they find help for their children. They identify issues early on so they can work with it right then and there. But a lot of us, we carry over this slave mentality, and it's from slavery, where when we had emotions, we couldn't show our emotions. We couldn't show pain. We couldn't show sadness because it would upset the master or to get us killed or something. And that's been passed down to generation because we never We never learn how to appropriately deal with our emotions, similar to how we've never learned how to appropriately deal with our finances and appropriately deal with our health. A lot of this stuff stems from slavery, and a lot of this stuff is aided and abetted by racism, which is a political system that is fed and nourished by racial prejudice, by race prejudice. So educate yourselves, talk to different people. If you find help at a church, I don't tell people to run the church all the time, because I don't want to push over the idea that the church is God and God is the church. Church is not God. God is not the church. The church used to be a safe haven to a certain point, but there are a lot of churches who actually exacerbate these problems, but not church in general. It's your duty to find out the places where you can find help. That's what I want to throw out too. It's your duty to find places where, okay, this church seems like it's good. You don't just go anywhere and just meet somebody and immediately start telling them things. And there are some people who are led by God to do that. If you don't believe in God or anything, this part isn't for you. But those who are spiritual and believe in God, there are some people who are led by God to do that. Okay, by every means, if God is leading you to do that. But a lot of us, we're just looking to release, or we just release to any and everybody. Many of you are giving people the bullets that they use to kill you. Don't do that. I understand if it's hard to hold on to it. I mean, talk out to yourself. Pray, meditate. I pray. I don't meditate. I pray. I talk to God. I pray. I don't do this. Father God, in the name of you right now, God, move. I don't do it. I'm driving in my car and I'm talking to God in my mind. I'm telling God, Lord, help me with this. Show me how to deal with this issue. I don't tell him to take it away all the time. I tell him if it's your will to take it away, but if it's not your will to take it away, show me how to deal with it. Show me how to work with this. Show me how to turn my negative into a positive in my life. Show me how to make this negative, how to use this negative to grow something in my life that I could pass on to my children. Because I don't want to be a husband that's a bad husband. I don't want to be a bad father. I don't want to be a bad leader of my family. So just be real with yourself. Seek to get better. This was just laid on my heart and I wanted to share. So God bless to you all. Be safe out there. And it's your boy, Corey, signing off.